Welcome. I'm Adam Miller, a consultant with the Art of Applying and a graduate of the University of Virginia's Darden School of Business. Today we'll be looking at a question from our Q&A vault about the consortium and the different components of its essays. So let's take a look at what the client asked our consulting team. They wrote in, for the consortium application, how do you navigate similar core essay prompts to the school-specific essay prompts? So basically, the consortium is a group of about 20 of the top business schools, and it functions like a common app with some awesome benefits around scholarships and talking to companies before school even starts. And so what this question is about is there's some consortium overall essays, and there are some school-specific essays. And so how do you decide how much you can recycle materials across those? They go on to ask, as per the consortium frequently asked questions, all schools have access to your core essays. So the core essay is just an essay that is about you as an MBA applicant that all the schools will read, and it helps you just get into any of the programs that might want to admit you. The person goes on to explain, however, the core essay prompt uses the same language as many of UCLA Anderson's and USC Marshall's required essays. So if the schools, and this is true, the schools are going to see that overall core essay, and they're going to have their own school-specific essay. And if those are super similar, then how much can I just say the same thing over again? This is why it makes sense this person's writing in a question. They go on to say, so what should be our strategy for approaching these schools' required supplemental essays? What should we do? The consortium core essay says, please describe your short and long-term post-MBA goals. How has your professional experience shaped these goals and influenced your decision to pursue an MBA degree 300-word limit? So the reason the consortium makes this a core essay is because they know that these schools are going to ask you this question one way or another. So why not make it easy and have you just write it once? Unfortunately, it seems like two of the schools that are part of the consortium are probably writing a question that's repetitive, that they didn't take this out of having you write it again for their school-specific essays. Probably something that will change over time, but let's get into a little bit more of the details and then see how our consulting team answered the question. The UCLA essays say, 1, state your short and long-term career goals. So yep, that's very similar, 100 words. Number 2, how can UCLA Anderson help you achieve those goals? And number 3, how have events of the past year influenced the impact you would like to make in your community, career, or both? So yeah, especially the first two here around what do you want to do and how is UCLA going to help you get there? That's very similar to the core essay of describe your short and long-term goals and how you've decided you want to go get an MBA. Yeah, all three of those questions are extremely similar. So I understand why this person's a little bit confused and possibly feeling like they might mess this process up. USC Marshall essay is, what is your specific immediate short-term career goal upon completion of your MBA? Please include an intended position, function, and industry in your response. 100 words max. So that's interesting, right? Because the word counts and all these things are different. That's the first thing that jumps out to me. And so let's see how our consultant who actually responded, and it looks like we've got 2 people who've helped out here, what they recommend that the person do. So our first consultant says, hi, not sure if the consultants here feel any differently, but in my opinion, for the core essay, I would focus on my backstory, meaning the drivers and motivation for my future goals that would be true regardless of what school I was applying to. Now, okay, so this is super interesting. I just realized this person is not a consultant. This person is another client. So that's great, actually, because that's why we have this Q&A vault for all of our clients, is because they're going through the same process and they can help each other because they're looking at the same exact prompts half the time. So again, this client who's helping to answer the other client's question is saying that for the overall essay that all the schools are going to see, she would just talk about the things that are leading her to wanting to go to business school. And for the UCLA question, she would just re-emphasize where it made sense, but put it in a more straightforward way, which makes sense because each of those questions has a shorter word limit than the overall core essay does, as well as including any other details with that space around UCLA specific resources that you wouldn't put in the core essay, right? Because all the schools are going to read those. So that's a great answer. For the USC essay, she would have a similar approach for the first one. So again, it's scale back, because you don't get as many words for each of these essays that the school-specific essays are getting to. But instead of just talking overall about why business school and what job you want and what you've done before, you're going to do those in both cases. Maybe mix the language up just a tiny bit so you're not just cutting and pasting, because you might make a mistake if you're doing this over and over again. But you can insert some school-specific things about why not just an MBA, but why an Anderson MBA, or, as you're mentioning what you want to be right after business school or in the long term, you could drop in if you've talked to an alumni who's working at the place you want to be at or has already gotten to the chief whatever role that you want to be in whichever company or industry. So let's take a look finally at what our consultant, our actual consultant, also had to say here, and then we will wrap up. He says, your consortium statement will be necessarily quite broad and far-reaching, where you may want to provide a bit of storytelling. For the UCLA short long-term career goal prompt, you'll want to be more explicitly focused and provide additional detail and color that regarding your ambitions that you provide in your consortium mission essay you wouldn't have had elsewhere. For example, if you're interested in pursuing consulting, right, it's a very common thing people want to go into. For example, I would add new context regarding the skills you hope to gain, the types of verticals or industries that you would want to cover, and you may already be weaving this into your core essay, but it's an invitation to go deeper. You'll get bonus points here if you can articulate specific facets of your short and long-term career goals that link directly to what UCLA has to offer. Maybe you're interested in, a specific class or a specific, type of research organization that the school provides, and highlight to some of the people that you've actually spoken to, whether it's current students who've interned in consulting or explored a consulting career path, or even alumni. And then the USC question, same exact answer he's saying again. In fact, I'd be guided by the verbiage used in the prompts to answer. UCLA is number one. You won't be able to be as specific for the long-term goals for USC's, but definitely paint a picture in terms of position, function, and industry. The client says, thanks for the advice. I'll be sure to do that. And he says, good luck. So again, just to summarize really quickly, there's going to be some overlap when you're applying to consortium schools in their specific school essay and the overall core essays. It's totally fine to say the same thing, but make sure you don't mess up while you're copying and pasting those things, and make sure that you're really following what that specific prompt is asking you for. If you go too quickly to just typing, okay, they're asking about career goals, so I'll type out my career goals, you might miss the word limit, you might miss an extra second half of the question. So it's good to just pay attention to what you're doing there. And if one part of the application is not going to see what another part of the application is doing, totally fine to recycle materials. That's it for today's question. Hopefully it was informative and a little bit entertaining. If you want any help getting into your dream school, please reach out to us at theartofapplying.com.